Is up, everybody? Welcome into another episode of Sports Dummies with Joe Morley and Tony Tucker here. And we're doing a Saturday edition instead of Friday. Sorry about that if anybody was waiting for Friday, but we'll be consistent about it. There's so many things that continue to swirl in the NFL, which we are excited about. And outside of that, maybe I'm going to touch on a little bit of the Coach K, North Carolina Duke thing that's happening later today. If you are listening to this on audio, you can jump on over and join into the live chat on YouTube, Warzone Sports Network. Subscribe there, subscribe here. Join us in all the fun. And remember, Sports Dummies is a safe space to say the dumbest things you want about your favorite sports teams, players, or stories. Joe Morley, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. And that's why I'm on this show, Tony, because I say a lot of dumb stuff. And like you said, it's a safe zone, so we can come on here and everybody's opinions is we can laugh about it, we can joke about it, we can have a great time about it. But a lot of good things going on in the NFL. Like, this has been the craziest offseason. We've talked about it multiple times. Craziest offseason in the NFL. But now you have, like you just said, I just remembered Duke versus North Carolina in the Final Four, and that's crazy too. And so we can break down brackets later because I have some news about that. I think I'm doing pretty good on some of those.
Well, let's save that for the end. I think that we should start with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers because I don't think that there has been a more drastic change in an offseason for one team since Tom Brady decided to go to Tampa the first time, right? Because if you think about, like, it changed everything for them there. It was the first time that they had, like, a marquee franchise guy. Like, I go back and I think about the Josh Freemans and the Brad Johnsons and Trent Dilfers. I mean, they traded away or let go of Steve Young at some point. He ended up going on to be a Hall of Famer with the 49ers. But I was looking at it and I was like, we had them like done, like below the Saints, fighting for not being in last place with the Carolina Panthers. When they were talking about Blaine Gabbert or Kyle Trask being their QB, they were going to lose Carlton Davis likely. They were going to lose, a couple of offensive linemen. Ryan Jensen was going to hit free agency. Godwin's situation was up in the air. So many players. Leonard Fournette. Now all of a sudden, Tom Brady decides to come back. We already knew that. And everybody re-signs there. And now there's all the like controversy of whether or not Tom Brady forced out Bruce Arians. And to me, it almost doesn't. To me, that doesn't even really matter whether he did it or not, because ultimately the situation was going to work out. Because Tom Brady wanted to play football, and he can get along with anybody. And maybe he doesn't like being cussed out after he already won 6 Super Bowls, But it didn't change the overall like makeup of the team that much. Well, let me say this. It didn't change it for the worse. I think it may have actually changed it for the better, right? Because now you have Tom Brady and Byron Leftwich who are going to be left alone to their own devices. So how do you feel about the Brady, Bruce Arians whole Buccaneers situation?
Like you said, I don't think it changes anything. I think they're still going to be the same team with Bruce Arians, without Bruce Arians, because they have Tom Brady running that offense. Todd Bowles just takes another step up. But Todd Bowles has been in this role before, so it's not nothing new for him to step up to the head coach. He's already had his experience with the Jets that didn't go good, but at least he knows what he's doing this time around. And like you said, he's still going to just coach the defense. Brian Leftwich is a head coaching candidate as well. And him and Tom Brady, you've heard the stories about him and Tom Brady last year making a game plan, and then Bruce Arians coming in from vacation and changing it all up. Well, now that's done. I think you're going to see a little bit of the Tampa Bay offense open up because what did you hear? What have we heard about Bruce Arians' offense? That it's a little complex, right? It's a little hard to handle. Even though Tom Brady is the best quarterback to ever play the game, to ever step on the field, he still struggled in that offense. So I think with Brady and Leftwich breaking the offense down just a little bit to the way that they like it, and probably to the and simplify it just a little bit, it's going to actually help the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in the long run. So I'm good with it. I'm good with the Todd Bowles. Do I think that this has been in the works for a long time, Tony? Yes. Do I think this has probably been in the works before Tom Brady came back? Yes. And you and I talked a little bit about this off air yesterday, and I asked you about the Rooney Rule, and you said it was a way around the Rooney Rule, and that was very interesting to me because the NFL makes a big deal about the Rooney Rule, right? Well, Todd Bowles is a black coach, and he got the job. But what about everybody else? Now you just straight went around it, but you found the loophole, and go ahead, and I'll let you explain that.
Yeah, so from what I understand is that after the start of free agency, you no longer have to adhere to the Rooney Rule, right? Because your selection in the pool of head coaches and the people that you can request interviews with is so limited that you are then allowed to go and just pick any head coach that you want. I do think that there was a lot of this Bruce Arians thinking to himself, like, if he did want to retire without Tom Brady, but he wanted his guy to get the job, right? If he wanted Todd Bowles to be the next head coach, how crappy of a situation would it have been for Bruce Arians to dip out after getting Tom Brady for 2 years and leaving Todd Bowles in another New York Jets-like situation? Because Simply Dab has a comment up here, and he says, Bowles and Dennis Allen, the top 2 rookie head coaches. The thing is, neither one of these guys are rookie head coaches. They both have been with organizations prior to this that are not as good as the current organizations that they're with right now, right? And I don't mean that historically. The Raiders have won championships, like 60 years ago? So congratulations for you guys there. But the Saints, they were the Aints for a long time. They were very bad. But if you look at them now, they have just had Sean Payton for 15 plus years. The ownership's in a good place, and they have great veteran leadership. I don't think either of these head coaches had any of that stuff when they were with the Jets or the Raiders. So I think that Tom Brady coming back makes it easier for Bruce Arians to go smoke cigars and drink whiskey and cuss at, who's ever, the caddy for him when he's playing 18 holes. Like, Bruce Arians has the ability to leave Todd Bowles in a situation where I don't know exactly what his record is now, but I joked about this with you. If he gets Tom Brady for 2 years in that division, his record will go from being like 14 games under 500 to being an above 500 head coach in the National Football League, because that's what Tom Brady can do for you, your organization, and especially being in a weak NFC conference, and NFC South is pretty much dog excrement when you really look at what's going on there.
Well, and you talked about it when Tom Brady, the Tampa Bay offense or offseason, when Tom Brady was gone, when all these big name guys are gone, it was the second year in a row that they had a bunch of free agents of their own team that they had to try to bring back. And at one point, Tony, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers dropped to 50-1 odds to win the Super Bowl next year. And now they're all the way back to, I think, 4-1. So if you would have, and then I heard some sports casinos and bets are trying to pay off those other people that bought those early predictions when Tom Brady retired. But look at that. Just look it doesn't matter what coach it is, because the odds didn't drop when Bruce Arians backed away. The odds dropped when Tom Brady backed away. So you're telling me you still got Tom Brady on the Buccaneers. You're telling me that Tom Brady is still in the NFC, which is the weak conference right now. And you're telling me the NFC South with Atlanta, who has nobody, and the Panthers. Yeah. And then as you're talking about Todd Bowles and Dennis Allen, both of these guys deserve second shots. Both of them had, like you said, yes, I am a Raider fan, and I love Dennis Allen. I liked him when he was on the team, and I didn't think he got a fair shot with the Raiders, and I think they treated him bad. And maybe I'm the minority on that, but I thought Dennis Allen was a good head coach for the Raiders and deserved a second shot. Now, do I think the Saints are in the greatest position that they have been with Sean Payton? No, he's going to struggle there. But Todd Bowles, Dennis Allen in that division going at it, yes, they have a shot at being it, and they get to learn from their past experience, like we've already talked about. So I like both those hires, Tony. It's going to be good, but Tampa Bay, and Todd Bowles, like you said. What was Todd Bowles' record right now?
I don't remember. I think it flashed on the screen and it was something like 28-40 or something bad. He's like 12 to 14 games under 500 as a head coach. Let me just say this. In Vegas, I don't think there's any coaches that are really going to make that much of a difference for Super Bowl odds. It's a quarterback league. The rules are set around these guys to succeed, and they're going to move the number, not a head coach. Look at what happened with Sean Payton when Drew Brees retired. The team was pretty much the same from the year before when Brees had been there, and they went from being like Super Bowl contenders. I know they got knocked out by Brady to not really being good, like, kind of withering away to the end of the season. You look at Belichick without Brady. They were competitive in year 2 without him, but they weren't really like a legit Super Bowl contender with a rookie QB. Like, you need to have somebody back there who has experience, who's competent and talent. And you have to have that at that position. And if you don't have all three of those things, you ain't going to make it. So this is something we're going to talk about next. I just want to say this lastly, and I'm glad Fel K came here. When you watch the Bruce Arians press conferences, how have Bruce Arians and Jerry Jones not linked up? Don't they just seem like a match made in heaven? Like, he's like, I like to cuss him out and hug him later. And, like, I get along with everybody. He's like, win or lose, we booze. Like, he just feels like him and Jerry Jones would be best friends, like two 70-year-old guys on a trip. It's like a movie, where you're casting Michael Douglas and I don't know the other actor, and they're like going on an adventure together. Like, these two old guys, I feel like, would give the best press conferences every week. Bruce Arians taking shot at Jerry, and Jerry in the other way, back and forth. Like, they just seem like two guys on a collision course for the most entertaining coach, owner, GM situation I could ever imagine. What do you think about Bruce Arians and the Cowboys?
I think it's better than what they got right now.
Well, I mean, yeah.
I don't know. I've never been a fan of Bruce Arians. I don't know why. Even when he did that time in Indianapolis and then Arizona, and he got the job, I just think, I don't know. For a head coach, Belichick is cocky, but Bruce Arians takes cockiness to a whole nother level. And like, Belichick is just like, he just doesn't answer you. He's just like, yeah. Bruce Arians is that dick. Like, he's an asshole. Like, to my opinion, I wouldn't want to play for a coach like that. And I think that's what you're seeing is he's wears off. So yeah, put him in the Dallas Cowboys because I want to see another blow up situation. If the Cowboys don't win, it's always good for me. So put Bruce Arians on the Cowboys because I just see it blowing up with Jerry Jones and him going at it again. Hey, and then when the Cowboys are losing, when the America's team is losing, it's good for America.
It's good for my America, anyways.
Yeah. Well, the America that I want to live in.
Yes, as you see here, Simply Dad letting us know Devontae Parker traded to the Patriots. The compensation, I believe, was a 5th round this year and a 3rd round next year, if memory serves. And Joe, what did you say to me right before we jumped on about the Miami Dolphins and the Patriots trading wide receivers? What'd you say?
I said, do you remember the last time that these two teams traded wide receivers to each other? And you couldn't remember it. And it was Wes Welker. He went for like a 2nd and a 7th round pick to New England. And after that, we all know what happened. Wes Welker became one of the best wide receivers in the league. And looking at Devontae Parker, he was good. 2 years ago, he put up 1,000 yards. He's gone through a couple injuries. Then he had Tua as a quarterback. So it's not like he's not a good wide receiver. He's still young. He's only 29 years old. And for the Patriots to go out and do this, I think they saw something, a little weapon. And I'm looking at Devontae Parker's stats. Last year, he had 40 catches, 515 yards, 2 touchdowns, Tony. That would have put him 4th on the Patriots last year in yards. 4th. So I think this is a big deal. It adds another weapon for Mac Jones, and Belichick's not going out and getting somebody from the division rivalry, just division rival, just so he can go sit on the bench and make him look stupid. Belichick sees something in Devontae Parker and something that he could rub in the Miami Dolphins' face for the next couple of years.
Yeah, I think this means goodbye to N'Keal Harry too. I don't even know if he's on the roster anymore, but they're pretty much the same. And you're either going to try to move him or you just cut him, like because they still have Kendrick Bourne, who played really well last year. Jacoby Myers is still there, and I believe Nelson Aguilar is still there. So now you add in Devontae Parker, who I have always thought has been held back by injury and consistent QB play. Mac Jones, very accurate, will be able to use his ability, use his 50-50 ball ability. I think that this is a great move for the Patriots to be giving up a 5th rounder in this year's draft. It still allows, because a lot of mock drafts had the Patriots drafting wide receiver at that, whatever they're picking at, 22nd or 23rd overall pick where they're at. And in my head, I was like, there's no way Belichick goes back and picks a receiver a few years after picking N'Keal Harry. He's much more likely to go after a linebacker in that spot, an edge rusher, like somebody that he's going to be able to deploy in year one, because they've been letting linebackers go. I think Deontay Hightower's still out there. Cal Van Noy was released. They lost Jackson. Like, he's going to be looking at that 1st-round pick to be adding a defensive player, because they went and got Christian Barmore at D tackle. Now, maybe he goes and gets the linebacker, Nakobe Dean from Georgia, in that area. I just see maybe a quarterback, maybe Andrew Booth out of Clemson. He chooses him. I think that they go defensive with that first pick. I cannot see the Patriots drafting another wide receiver in the 1st round when they spent money on Hunter Henry, Jonnu Smith, Kendrick Bourne, Nelson Aguilar, and they put the tender on Jacoby Myers. I just don't see it. So I like this move for Devontae Parker because of Mac Jones's accuracy. I don't think it means much fantasy-wise. I think it means a lot football-wise. But Devontae Parker has to stay on the field. He just has to be healthy.
And it's a 3rd-round pick going to Miami, and Devontae Parker and a 5th-round pick going to New England.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, just to make sure everybody knows that deal. So, New England's getting a 5th-rounder and Devontae Parker. So they dropped two rounds for Devontae Parker, basically.
Oh, then this is a steal for them.
Yeah. Like, I mean, if you look at the Patriots' past history of drafting anyways, you're getting a solid player with a 3rd-round pick already.
Yeah, because Belichick wants pieces that he can use. Like, he's not drafting Devontae Parker as like, oh, we need a legit number 1 wide receiver. He's not looking at it. He's like, hey, in the red zone, where's my guy that can go up and just run a quick little fade route for him here in this area? He already has Myers who can work out of the slot. I think that this just adds another element that Belichick can deploy. He's just an evil genius, just behind the scenes being like, I need for this situation and this situation, and then I'm still going to lose to the Bills.
Yeah. And Devontae Parker adds a lot of experience to a team and to a quarterback that needs it. But I like the move, Tony. Miami Dolphins fans, I know you're celebrating because of what you have right now, but can you imagine all that money, all this offseason? You go out there, you do all this to make your team better, and Devontae Parker beat you in Week 18 on a touchdown, and you guys missed the playoffs. That's what I'm rooting for now.
That would bring a big smile to my face just because of the sheer entertainment of that happening. The Dolphins worked things out with Xavier Howard, which I thought was a big move for them, and they brought back Ogba, Emmanuel Ogba, I think I'm saying his name right, the defensive end pass rusher there. So Dolphins have made a lot of moves. I'm gonna wait to see what happens in the draft, but I think I'm gonna have the Dolphins ranked pretty high in the AFC, and there's gonna be some really sad 10-7 fans in the AFC that aren't making the postseason this year. I think like it's going to be that top heavy and good. But maybe not. Maybe maybe some of these other lower tier teams. Maybe Jacksonville plays better. Maybe the Jets play better this year. It'll be interesting.
There's always one team that comes out and surprises you, and they're better than last year. One or two teams, so it's going to be interesting. But since we're on the topic of wide receivers, Tony, did you see that Terrell Owens, the Hall of Famer, is coming out of retirement, but not to the NFL? He's not going to the NFL. He's going to be catching balls from none other than Johnny Manziel.
I love it. Okay, so I heard this story, and this is something I have always wanted. I've been saying this since I was younger. There needs to be a retired heroes football league. The Fan Control Football League, it's played on like a 50-yard field. I would watch. I've never watched the Fan Control Football League before, but guarantee that if I can get a chance to see Terrell Owens play, I'm going to go at least tune in for a little bit and see how it unfolds. It's exciting. I think there's a lot of players. If you love football and you're still training, go out there and do it. If you told me Brett Favre was going to quarterback one of these teams, Joe, guarantee that I am watching that game front row in my Wrangler jeans with a Miller Lite in the bed of my pickup truck with my golden retriever next to me, shaving my face with microtouch, strapped up in copper fit. I would watch Brett Favre do anything. He was my favorite entertainer of all time growing up as a kid. So many of these guys should be doing this kind of stuff that are still Randy Moss. Why not go run it 5-6 routes in the Fan Control Football League? LaDainian Tomlinson, get out there, dust it off. Phillip Rivers. I would love to see Phillip Rivers go over to the Fan Control Football League and just like have some fun. Like just entertain people and do something that you love.
Well, not even that. Like a couple of years ago, they had that flag football league, and did Michael Vick play quarterback in it? And like people, it was like a highly rated show. Like people were watching every flag football game. Everybody falls in love with players, Tony. It doesn't matter who it is and how old they're. Then those players get old and they can't play the game of football because football is a tough physical sport. But if you could take the physicality out of it, take a little bit of the mental game aspect of it, and just have it be fun, like street football, just like you're saying, and these guys could play a little bit, another 10 years, 15. Tell me right now, Tony, I don't know how old Jerry Rice is, probably in his 50 right now. You're going to tell me Jerry Rice can't come out and play a little fun game where he's not going to get hit hard and just play a little flag football game? You don't want to see Jerry Rice, Brett Favre to Jerry Rice right now?
I'm telling you, I'd watch it. I've been calling for this forever and ever. I think I've said that we should have one of my proposals during the getting rid of the Pro Bowl last year on one of our shows was that you get rid of that and you have Hall of Famers come in and play football, play flag football. It's a much more entertaining game than the two-hand touch, fully padded players that we had out there. And these guys have their whole careers ahead of them. Why would you even take the risk of playing in that game and hurting yourself? I just don't. I know it's supposed to be for the fans, but we all would like our favorite players on our teams. And just to have even the rare incidences of Robert Edwards, who was a running back for New England, playing in a beach football game 2 decades ago and tears up his leg, changes the course of his career. It's like there's no benefit to having a real Pro Bowl, but there'd be a huge benefit if all of a sudden, the next drive, we're going to have a flag football game. It's going to be Steve Young versus Joe Montana, we're going to have a little flag football tournament, first to 3 scores wins, and you bring out maybe Chris Collinsworth dusts off his Nikes and gets out there catching Tony Romo's out there, you got to throw one pass left-handed or something. Just have some fun with it, with players that we're familiar with and we know and love. I love what T.O.'s doing. T.O. actually used to work out at the 24-hour fitness where in the neck of the woods where I used to live. This guy still works out and does some of the craziest stuff. He goes outside of the 24-hour fitness to kind of because he likes the attention, but like also to like just do the craziest thing on like stairs that are outside. He's still in great shape.
So with T.O. coming back, he's 48 years old. Are we waiting for Chad Ochocinco to now link up with him?
I think that if it becomes a hit, and here's the other thing, if you get T.O. and some of these other guys and you start saying, hey, we'll give you a 3% stake in the company if you come over and the brand or whatever, the corporation that we're trying to build over here, allow some of these former athletes to put their name on it and get it to a place where you might be able to sell to Fox or sell to, one of these. Maybe it's Amazon Prime.
You want the big three of the NFL? Is that what you want?
Yeah, I want that. The big three, the problem is that they've never been able to lure the big names to that thing. Like, they'll be like, oh, come watch Baron Davis and Kenyon Martin. And it's like, they're good, but for basketball.
Kareem Rush, Tony?
In which you need those guys on the roster. Don't get me wrong. But you need T.O. is a big name. If you told me that the player coming back was like the level, I'm trying to think of somebody who flamed out. Give like a really good example.
Because I'm going to get my popcorn ready.
What is it?
I'm getting my popcorn ready for T.O. Yeah, that's what you're saying.
Yes, exactly.
T.O. sells tickets no matter what he's doing.
I wasn't tuning in for Johnny Manziel. Even though I knew that he had joined this league or whatever, but I'll tune in for T.O. because he was a great player that I enjoyed watching in the NFL. Now I'll do that. The NBA needs that former great to do the same thing.
For Steve Smith.
Yeah. Oh, I love Steve Smith is one of my favorites. Yeah, so tune in for Steve Smith.
All right. Yeah, I like that. I'm trying to think of another wide receiver that has a name but not a big name.
Like, I wouldn't tune in for, like, Chris Johnson. Like, I wouldn't turn in for, like, CJ2K. Like, that's sort of the line. I might watch the highlights if somebody sent me a clip, but I don't know if I'm going to, like, figure out when the game is and go watch it at that moment. That's all I'm saying, is you need that box office draw. And to me, T.O.'s that guy.
Like, right now, if you told me Michael Vick was going to play quarterback for a flag football team and I got to watch it, I'm going to watch it because Michael Vick is unreal athlete, right? But then you tell me he's playing Donovan McNabb's team. I'm good with it. I don't want to watch Donovan McNabb. I'm good. I've seen enough of him, but I'll watch it for Michael Vick.
I would probably tune in for Donovan McNabb. I think he was very underrated, but I get what you're saying. It's less exciting for sure for Donovan McNabb. Like, think about Jason Campbell. I don't know if you remember him. He played for
I do, because he was a Raider.
Okay, I didn't know he was a Raider. He bounced around the league. But if you told me Jason Campbell, I'm not tuning in for that. But I'm tuning in for guys that were good to great to even a guy like Terrell Owens, who is in the Hall of Fame of the National Football League.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of somebody like who else I would like to see. Like Marshall Faulk would be a nice one. I think he probably could still come out and, he's not there because they're not getting hit, Tony. They're just playing street football with limited hits. And if I don't know if you're just like tackling or barely like two hands on back or pulling a flag, that's a lot easier than oh man, I'm just thinking of like a retired team that I could put together and be like, let's go take this championship right here.
Yeah, it would be right there. I mean, imagine like Charles Woodson comes back and he's like, his team is going up against, Randy Moss or Terrell Owens or whatever. And it's like, they're going to go one-on-one.
I got a name for you that you said is a big name, but you wouldn't watch him, right? A big name wide receiver that everybody knows, but you wouldn't come back just to watch him. And that'd be like somebody like James Jones.
There you go. We know him from TV.
Great player.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not tuning in. I'm not like moving anything in my schedule to tune in for James Jones.
With the brand new football league, Johnny Manziel to James Jones. Tune in this Saturday. Are you going to tune in?
Probably not.
And then they go, Johnny Manziel to Hall of Fame wide receiver Terrell Owens.
I'm in. I'm there.
Where's it? Get that popcorn ready.
Exactly. Get that popcorn ready. Let's go to another wide receiver who might end up in that league, right? Antonio Brown. There is this. I saw a quote that Antonio Brown said, "Why can't he get a big payday? Why can't he get a job in the NFL?" And in my head, I'm like, if you don't know, that's got to be part of the problem, because you had a big payday for the Oakland or Las Vegas Raiders or whatever you guys were at that point, and you blew it. You did that to yourself. Like, nobody else did that to you. You made that decision to go that route, right? You, at that point, were not going to get a third chance to do it because you blew up the situation with the Steelers. The Raiders still take a chance on you. There's not many other teams outside of maybe the Cowboys that are taking risks on those kind of players. Yeah. There's just not a lot of owners and organizations are willing to commit any sort of guaranteed money to people who are erratic in behavior.
When Belichick cut him in New England, they were kind of forced to do it. But when Belichick cut Antonio Brown in New England after that week 1, I thought for sure Antonio Brown was done. Then he got lucky. I think he got lucky that Tom Brady switched teams, him with Bruce Arians, brought him to Tampa Bay. But everybody knew that was probably going to be his last run at greatness if he didn't screw it up. But the dude went on a tyrant and threw his pads and went across the field without a shirt on. Nobody's taking that. Nobody's taking that chance, Tony, unless they want to sell tickets. There's absolutely not one team out there. I know he's throwing it out there that he wants the Cleveland Browns to sign him and all this. But did you see the latest news from him where he said he has to have surgery on an ankle, but he's not going to have surgery until he gets signed by a team? Why the hell would I sign you if you have to have surgery and I don't know you're 100% or if anything's going to – if you're even going to play for me? So not only do I have to deal with your attitude, craziness, I have to wonder about your ankle surgery or your ankle injury. Antonio Brown is just a complete mess, and he's done, Tony. There's no way, absolutely no way he comes back to the NFL. There can't be.
Yeah, I mean, there's maybe a situation where I could see a team like, unfortunately, the Cowboys saying like, hey, we're bringing him in because we had an injury or something like that, where you get somebody who has enough of an ego to think that they can be a difference maker in the situation, that they can have a different result because of their presence, because the talent and ability is still there. It may not be prime AB, but the guy can still play football. And I think that like too many people in his life allow him to think that his behavior in a team setting is okay. I don't care how AB is in his personal life, because he's not part of my personal life. But I would never want him on my football team based on the way that he's conducted himself in his last 3 out of 4 teams. With the Patriots, he wasn't there long enough to really do anything out of character, right? Like, it was...
He would have been a beloved player in the history of the Raiders organization if he would have just played and got on the field and did his thing. The Raider Nation was already in love with bringing, because the Raider Nation has been missing a great wide receiver for years. And for him to come in, he would have solidified it and did everything. And no matter what he did, he would have been known as one of the great wide receivers in Raider history. And he ruined that chance and then basically shit on Raider Nation after they traded him. So I don't know. His legacy, because damn, that talent, like you said, Tony, you talked on the talent. His talent alone is one of the best in history.
Yeah.
It's like you put him up against some of the best players and you put his numbers and you put his talent and you're looking at, I don't know, maybe top 10, top 5 you can make a case for. If I'm saying you make a case, I'm not saying he's my top 5 wide receiver, but I'm saying there's people out there that can make a case. But I don't know. I don't know what happens.
I could easily make a case for top 10.
Yeah, easily. I'm top 10, but I'm saying some people can make a case for top 5. But I don't know. Antonio Brown, I like you and I like your talent, but maybe you need to take your talent to the USFL, maybe take it to the XFL, or one of the new leagues that Tony's starting up with you and Johnny Manziel.
Yeah, the fan controlled football league. I think he'd be great for that. And I think if you're AB, Why not go get a partnership deal? Why not say my thing is I don't understand why these people don't collaborate better. Why don't you get like 20 solid names of players, get together, and then go pitch the idea to one of these streaming platforms that could allow for these games to go live on Netflix or Amazon or Hulu or whatever it is, and just say like, oh yeah. And then all of a sudden you're getting revenue from there, and you could give Antonio Brown, he could make $3 million for playing games with limited amount of practice time and a shortened season. Then all of a sudden, if it hits for that network or that streaming platform, now you're getting more money. There's too many people that are kind of out there for themselves to come together, collaborate, and make that big thing happen. And they all have their own brands spreading off into other avenues in sports that they don't necessarily need football to make that money. They can do it with less, time consuming and body wear and tear avenues. So, but I'd watch Antonio Brown play football in one of these leagues.
Yeah, I would too. But let's move on to somebody that's been around in this. His name has been thrown around in football for the last couple of years, but he hasn't actually been playing football, and that's Colin Kaepernick. Jim Harbaugh is going to give him an opportunity to throw, so teams don't have to come out and scout him or act like they come out and scout him. They could just sit at home and watch it, or sit in the stands and watch it. So he's allowing Colin Kaepernick to throw at the halftime show between the blue and yellow Michigan spring football game that's coming up.
Maize and blue spring game today. It's probably already happened. We probably could go find right now online some highlight of that. There's got to be some Instagram, TikTok post or whatever already made about that experience, because I believe it happened a couple hours ago. It's the East Coast time, so we're looking at 3:00 over there. So good. My thing is good for Kaepernick. If this is legit and you want a chance to come back into the NFL, awesome. I really do hope you get a job. I tend to think that motives are for something else. Because if they didn't want you to play 5 years ago, you think that somehow you got faster and better at reading defenses. You think that 5 years off from the NFL made you stronger. There's already people who are questioning whether or not a year away from the field for Deshaun Watson is going to affect him at a younger age, who performed at a higher level when he was on the field. And that's 12 months, 18 months away from the game. So I don't see where any team wants the headache, right? There's no situation where it's like, maybe I could see this. Maybe there's the Baltimore Ravens who could say, oh, if Lamar Jackson has another injury, maybe he could come in and run the offense like Lamar Jackson could. But outside of that, are you going to bring him to Buffalo to back up Josh Allen? No. Are you going to bring him to Pittsburgh to back up Trubisky, who might run a similar style offense with read options and a quarterback flexibility in that play? Probably not. I mean, they already brought in Dwayne Haskins. So,
Dwayne Haskins.
I wish him the best. I don't know. I just don't see this working out anywhere. But maybe Jim calls his brother John and says, hey, give him a shot in camp and see if he could be the backup.
But bringing Kaepernick in, not only do you have to worry about the talent level, if he still has it, if he can do it, because he wasn't a starting quarterback when he left the league, and you got to hope that he still has it, but he's going to come with a bunch of media circus, and he wants to go back to a league that he compared to slavery, and he wants to go back there, Tony. That's tough, but I guess like you said, it already happened. It happened about an hour ago. So everything I'm looking at, they said, we got to listen to this interview. We got to listen to Colin Kaepernick on the interview. So let me see if I can pull it up just a little bit.
Okay, I'll say this.
For me, from the time we met at the combine, my pro day, to him drafting me and choosing to start me, and from there, our relationships continue to grow and develop. So, phenomenal person, phenomenal man. A lot of love for Coach Harbaugh.
And what does it mean after all these years that he has you come back here, be an honorary captain, and put on that throwing exhibition as well?
I mean, it shows who Coach Harbaugh is.
So basically, he's just talking about Harbaugh and how much he's done for him. So I'm trying to look for the stats, Tony, because somebody's out there going, he went. But they said Harbaugh was out on the field with them today with the play sheet and actually was doing basically what they do at these pro days for the NFL rookies and having them run routes with wide receivers and doing the thing. So is anything going to come out of this pro day? I'm going to say no.
No, there's no good situation for Kaepernick, and it's unfortunate, however you want to put it. It's just his time in the NFL is behind him. He sued the NFL, Joe. He sued him, and I read reports where he made like $100 million on that lawsuit. You think these owners are like, oh yeah, now you want to sue us and then come back and collect checks from us? Like these owners are way too quietly proud to allow that to happen. They just won't do it.
Do I think he could have had a chance to come back earlier, like a couple of years ago, if he would have mentally put in his head that he wasn't a starter anymore? Yes. Because every team will give you a second chance. But like you said, it's been 5 years. The circus, everywhere he goes, the media circus is there. Everybody wants to, even if it's not his fault, Tony, the media follows. The media makes a lot of things worse. And they're gonna be there, and they're gonna make little stories into big stories, and they're gonna take every little word that he says and blow it up, and your franchise has to deal with that. And Colin Kaepernick was a great story. He went to the Super Bowl, good story, but his career is over. And I've always brought this up, and I hate it because anytime there's an opening, like say somebody goes down right now, and I don't want to put this on anybody, but say Dak Prescott goes down again. What's the first thing NFL fans go? Well, Kaepernick's out there, go get him. And then they get mad that they signed somebody else than Kaepernick. Like I've been saying, like Kaepernick's never coming back. It's done. Now Kaepernick has been offered contracts by the other leagues, like the XFL, remember that, and some of these other leagues, and he's turned that down. So if he really loved the game of football, he would be doing something else than the NFL. He would be showing that he loves football, going somewhere else, and working his way back into it, but he's not. Terrell Owens is 48-year-old Hall of Famer that we just talked about, is showing you that he loves football because he's going to the fan football control and he still wants to play, and that's the only way he can still play. If Kaepernick really loved the game, he would find a way to play the damn game.
I agree. The Canadian Football League would take him in a second, any of these indoor leagues or whatever. So I don't know. I don't want to get into my personal thoughts on the situation, but there's just
I'm not talking about anything other than his playing ability. I would not take a shot on anybody, and it's hard. And you've seen it where even these players that took a year off for COVID and took that 1 year off, when they came back, they struggled. Taking 1 year off in the NFL is very hard for a lot of people. Even after, if they take it off for injury or they take it off for anything, that 1 year off is the game passes you up quickly.
Yeah, you can't simulate the mental reps, the vigor that it takes, right, mentally to compete and to stay as sharp as you possibly can. And then you factor in the physical component on your body. Your body then has to retrain to like getting all of those hits, and you have to the mental preparation for bracing to get hit that hard. There's so much that goes into it. And what I was talking about from the personal side is that, like, when you think about a place like Dallas is not going to want somebody that, and I mean this by the fans, somebody who the media made it seem like he was taking a knee during the national anthem. That is not going to fly in the state of Texas. He can't be playing for the Cowboys. Like, it just, that dynamic of when it comes into racial lines and disrespect and all of these things that people want to get away for just for the entertainment of what football is. And you can argue about the merits of that, but it just won't fly in certain places like that. That's why I think Seattle is actually like a place that would embrace Kaepernick overall, right? The kind of their, political standing, I guess, would be a little more welcoming. But Pete Carroll's not going to want to deal with that situation.
And that's the unfortunate aspect of it is once you're portrayed as a certain way in the media, you're done that way. You're done. And Colin Kaepernick, and that's the same thing that we just talked about on Antonio Brown. The circus comes with him, no matter what the talent is. But when you're an unbelievable talent like Antonio Brown, you get unlimited chances. That's why people don't understand that Colin Kaepernick didn't have the ability, because if he had the ability, Tony, and he still had if he was still number one quarterback quality, teams would take the chance on him. No doubt about it. Somebody would call him in.
Aaron Rodgers is 39. He's been yanking around that organization for like 3 straight off seasons, and they just paid him $100 million guaranteed. Like, they don't. If you can do it, they will try to find every way they can to get you. And we've had people who've been out of the league for some horrible things, and the league finds a way to get them back in. Randy Gregory had some terrible stuff off the field, and he was still signed because he was a pass rusher, and you need people that can go after the quarterback. So there'll always be. I really do hope that Cap ends up on a roster. No joke. I want him at least on a camp and a tryout. I would love for him to get out there in some preseason games and compete for a roster spot. I'd be happy for Colin Kaepernick.
Yeah, it just has to be the right spot, like you said, and that's very hard to find at this moment. Last week we tried to do this show, Tony. We tried to end the show on a non-sports or on a non-football. So I think I have one for you, Tony, and it kind of goes with everything that's going on in this crazy world right now. Jake Paul, we all know Jake Paul, right? Everybody knows Jake Paul is offering $30 million to Will Smith and Chris Rock to box it out in the ring. Would you want to watch that fight? Will Smith, Chris Rock in the ring?
No. For so many reasons. And I've talked to people about this, and I said that one of the things that didn't sit well with me was that I don't believe Will Smith would have done that if it was The Rock making the joke and not Chris Rock, right? Because he's not going up there and slapping 6'4", oozing machismo The Rock in the face. He's just not going to do that. But he is going to go up there and be like, I've taken enough punishment and tease, and I'm going to go slap Chris Rock. Chris Rock is like 168 pounds. And Will Smith is 6'3", and he's combat trained. This is not a fight. Chris Rock isn't a fighter. He's a comedian. He's never exhibited any sign of like physical abilities in any movie, anything he's ever done. Like, I'm not saying that he's like out of shape or weak or whatever. Yeah. But Will Smith trains and climbs mountains and trains in combat sports. So even that just gives him a leg up. Also, too, it doesn't really change the narrative of the story, Joe. Like, it doesn't change the fact of what happened. It's not like you're giving Chris Rock a chance. Now we're just going to see Will Smith pound on a guy that he weighs 50 pounds more and has 5 inches of height and reach on a guy. Now we're going to see him double down on beating down the person that was assaulted in the first place. Sorry, Paul. It's not happening.
Can we get Will Smith versus a Tupac hologram? That'd probably be a better fight, right?
I'm there. I'm there to watch that. I would say that the better fight would be, hey, Will Smith is going to fight, and then put him in with like some guy who's a fighter or something like that, and watch him sort of get his back. Maybe Chris Rock has got a cousin who's 6'6" and a fighter.
Who would have thought that Will Smith, that one of the childhood or my childhood actors, and you probably watched him growing up too, would be the crazy guy at the end of our years, like the guy that is off his rocker or not. I mean, because he's not crazy, but he's just like loved is making him do a lot of crazy things. Let's just say that.
I will say that there's been a few times in my life where I genuinely I was shocked and disappointed with the Tiger Woods situation, because I don't really look up to or idolize people, but there are certain people in professions where I go, if I had the chance to do it and conduct myself, this is how I would do it, right? And I look at Will Smith is one of those guys who says and did the right things. He got made fun of for not being black enough and all those things. A lot of things that I dealt with, like when I was growing up, it was like you didn't conduct yourself enough in a way to be accepted by a certain portion of the population, but it never seemed to bother him. Like, at least he never let it like affect him out. People make fun of his rap or pop music or whatever. He's not a real rapper. Yeah, but it's fun. We're in the club. We're drinking in Miami, or Big Willie Style comes on. It's good. Is it as good as Jurassic 5 or The Roots or the Black Star album from Kweli and Mos Def? No, it's not those things. But it is still, it has a place. It's entertaining. He made fun movies. And then to get up there and to just do that, it hurt. The Tiger Woods stuff, it hurt. I was like, come on, you guys are supposed to be better than this and above this. You have everything.
A year ago or 2 years ago, I felt bad for Will Smith because, like I said, I watched him, loved him. Fresh Prince of Bel-Air was one of the best shows I've ever watched growing up. And you fall in love with him, and every movie that he comes out with is better and better. And like you said, we don't idolize him, and I don't go, "Oh, Will Smith" or anything like that. I don't have a shrine I have a shrine to myself, but not a Will Smith. But it's like you said, it's somebody that you go, that guy carries himself right, and I want to see him, and and you never hear anything bad about him. And then I felt bad for him when Jada had him at that table, and she was just like telling him everything, and you could, and you've seen the memes where his face is just like him crying, and he's trying to act like it's not hurting him, but it's hurting him, and you could tell. And as a man, you're sitting there like, damn, I feel bad for this dude. And as a, like you said, and we like him, or we don't know him personally, but we have that, like, he has that likability characteristic where we're like, we like Will Smith, so it makes it even feel bad. But then when he walked up, and I didn't get to watch the Oscars, I don't watch those damn shows, I don't watch anything. But when I got the link and it said Will Smith / Chris Rock, I was like, what the hell? I clicked on it and I watched it, and part of my heart just dropped right there, Tony. I was like, no way. I was like, I hope this is fake, because Will Smith just dropped in my value. Because as a man, Tony, just as a man, as a person standing there, I value Chris Rock a lot more, because I know how much it takes to hold back when you get slapped. No matter how small you are, how big you are, to take a slap, to take an open hand slap from another man, Tony, is such a disgrace. It's such an insult. And he took it, and Chris Rock took it, and he took it great, and I'll give him that. But Will Smith just dropped a whole lot in my book, and it's just like, and to me, it's a cowardly move. And the way you slapped him and walked away and turned your back to him after you slapped him and walked away, Tony, like, you ain't gonna do shit. Like, I got you right here. Have a good day. Oh my, Will Smith went from here to here, Tony, and I hope he makes a recovery, and I hope he gets everything he needs to help him. But damn it, it's just hard to see another childhood hero drop.
Yeah, it definitely hurt. I think he's going to be fine. He withdrew from being a member of the Motion Picture Academy and Science and whatever. And I don't want to get too deep into all of that actor side of it, but I think he's going to take a hit. I've already seen a lot of people a lot of comedians and whatever, taking shots at Will and Jada, and it goes a little too far. I never want to judge anybody in their life by their worst moments. So there is, like, again, like I said, Will Smith is just one of those people that is such a big part of my life, right? Like, from as long as I can remember, from TV to the movie he won the Oscar for right here. I sat in my living room and I watched it with my wife because I was a tennis player. I could not wait for that movie. King Richard, I was 1,000% in. I knew the story. I used to get the tennis magazines and read about the Williams sisters when they were coming up and hear things from Richard. And I was like, dude, this guy's crazy, but I didn't have a dad. I was like, I would have loved to have somebody like Richard Williams who fought for me like he did, right? Like who just was like, my kids are going to do this and my kids are going to do that. It would have been amazing. I thought he did an amazing job in the movie. I think he will recover from this. He's smart. He's savvy. Time will wash. Time will move on. We got bigger stuff going on in the world, but this will transition to my last thing, and then we can get out of here, and I'll make it quick. Coach K is playing Duke. Coach K and Duke are playing the Tar Heels today, UNC. First time this has ever happened. They met in a tournament, which is amazing. This could potentially be Coach K's last game. And I don't know. I want Duke to win. I would like to see Coach K go out on top. But as you just said, we watched another one of our sort of like heroes of our time fall. I think it's pretty impressive that Coach K has been able to weather the storm for this long without having any like assaults, like, you know, like inappropriate affairs, abuse of players, you know, like he's somebody that, like, when you go back and you start pulling skeletons out of people's closet, like he's made it 50 years without anything like pulling him down. And it makes me really happy to hope that, like, look what they did to like Joe Pa statues, you know, like in him for Penn State at the end, or like even when people reflect on like Bobby Knight from the college thing, it's like, oh wait, hey, Bobby Knight just wasn't intense. He was choking out his players and throwing chairs at people. And like, maybe this guy wasn't just, you know, like an intense coach. He was abusive and insane. And there's a lot of players, a lot of coaches or figures or whatever that, like, Coach K has just seemed to do it so correctly and right and still enjoy success. He didn't need to be a monster, still had good personality, still respected. And it's like, however it goes down, I'm happy to think in my head, like, hey, we get to like look back fondly on somebody and not have to be like, oh, well, he had this horrible thing in his past or whatever. Why do you support that? Because it's always like, you look back in the rearview mirror and people always bring up the bad stuff. So I'm glad. Good for Coach K. I hope he gets the win. I was secretly a fan of Duke, even though I wasn't really allowed to, because I was a big fan of Grant Hill when I was a youngster. So good for him. Good luck. Cheers to Coach K. Wrap it up, Joe. Let's get out.
When you have respect from players that don't even play for, that never even played for you, and they're calling you out and saying how great of a coach you are, it means something. And like you said, to do all these years and never have anything, never have a scandal, never have a recruiting scandal, anything like horrible to hold you down, it's good for you. And he did he did a dream team, right? Or Olympic teams?
Yeah, he was the U.S. national coach for many years or whatever it was. So
he not only did he have the college players wanting to play for him, he had NBA players. Because every time there was a job opening a few years ago, it was always like, Coach K coming. Do I secretly want him to lose today in the Final Four? Yes. Please do. North Carolina, let's go. Because I'm not a big college basketball fan. I'm not a big basketball fan, but I do watch when they get to the Final Four or you know, the playoffs, and I do all that. So I had a couple people hit me up, and they're like, hey, you want to do brackets? And I was like, sure, I'll do brackets. I do brackets every year. Don't know what the hell I'm doing, but I'll do them, right? And so I picked Villanova to go all the way in a couple brackets. And so I'm right there, Tony. If Villanova wins, like in one bracket, it's between me and this other guy. So he has Duke, I have Villanova. If Villanova wins, I win. If Duke wins, he wins. Same thing in our buddies bracket with Scotty, our Washington football analyst. I mean, I could come all the way up to second place with Villanova taking it and Duke losing. So I have my own little thing that I'm rooting for. So sorry, Coach K. I want you out. Get on out. Have a great career, but today is your last game.
And with that being said, and that hatred to end the show, we are out of here too. Thank you for listening to Sports Dummies. We'll be back again with another show next Friday. Please subscribe on all the podcast platforms and here at the Warzone Sports Network. Have yourself a great weekend. Cheer, dance, enjoy, love, laugh. And until next week, keep it dumb. Dummy!